keep you honest. If you missed it, I hope you don't miss it again. Deductive validity is mainly a function of B, an argument's form. Validity is distinct from what other concept? Yeah, the truth value of the premises. Recall, validity is an issue of structure, and I said when it comes to inductive arguments, I prefer, even though the text uses the term inductive validity, I prefer to talk about inductive strength or weakness, and this is because when we speak of validity, if the structure is valid and the premises are true, it guarantees what about the conclusion? Yeah, it guarantees the truth of the conclusion. We say it is, as Mr. Castle said, that it's sound. So that was just B. It was not all of the above. Bad reasoning is also called A, fallacious reasoning. Straight out of the text, straight out of the notes. We will be discussing some formal fallacies examples today. 3, worldviews are described by logic and contemporary rhetoric as this should have been easy. If it wasn't, you may have missed something in the, or maybe missed something in some of the possibilities. It's not A. Why?
Because that's what it is.
Yeah, because they are highly related to your background beliefs and experiences. They are not just your background beliefs and experiences, but they are in a way a function of them. So it's not A. The least ingrained of our beliefs? No, they're the most ingrained. So B's not correct. Largely the product of societal standards? Yeah, that's the best answer on the board. Most people tend to imprint the worldviews that they are trained to think in terms of. This is another reason why they're difficult to alter, because they are so ingrained into us. And also, the person who goes against the viewpoints of the majority's worldview is not likely to be treated how? No, kindly, pick your word. Yeah, it's not likely to be treated kindly by the society. You're likely to be treated as an abnormal. Anyway, unimportant to most people? No, worldviews are the most important things to people. So yeah, that one should not have been difficult. Now there were 2 good ways you could answer question number 4. I intentionally did it that way. Consider the following. When there's inclement weather, Smith tends to come to class in khakis and a blazer instead of a suit. The snow is nasty today, so he'll likely be wearing khakis. You could have explained this one either deductively or inductively, just depended on that you also did the explaining. Now, this one looked a lot like which homework problem from previously?
The medicine one.
Yeah, the echinacea problem. If you'd said it was you should have said it's indeed an argument because the person's drawing the conclusion that Smith will likely wear khakis today. If you explained it as predominantly inductive, you would have had to say, well, what the person did was observe Smith's attire behavior over time, and he drew a likely conclusion based upon Smith's, past conduct. And that's why it's not a perfect conclusion, but an argument from strong induction. Now, if you explained it the echinacea way, perfectly fine too. This argument is actually set up very much like that basic deductive structure, I should say similar to the echinacea, but not quite. This one, instead of modus tollens, is set up like modus ponens. When there's inclement weather, says Smith tends to wear khakis instead of a suit. There is inclement weather today, so Smith will wear khakis instead of a suit. Yes?
Is it okay if we did a simulation like that, I just didn't put it in equation form?
Oh, you didn't have to, but even if you just said this looked like That if then, you know, if P then Q, it is P, so
Yeah.
Q. And if you even mention that this one is structured like modus ponens, you know, you have the right idea here. I did this intentionally that way, you know, to see what kind of insights, or to see if you recognize that pattern or not. And indeed, that this premise's observation is entirely based upon induction. The premise is based upon induction. We observe Smith's behavior, we draw conclusions about what Smith is likely to do in the future. If you explain it either of those two ways, that's perfectly fine. If you lost a point, it may have been because you said it was induction or deduction, but then didn't do what? Yeah, then didn't give an explanation of it. So do make sure if it says and explain, do make sure that you explain it. Because technically, what is more important than getting the right answer?
Understanding.
Yeah, demonstrating that you understood it. Showing your work, that kind of thing. Okay. That wasn't bad, I hope. Now, let's pick up where we left off. We're technically starting in chapter 2 formally today, although we actually